Hello, welcome to Local Anesthetic Podcast, your regular injection of mind-numbing local news. This is episode 382 now, which just even saying it sounds bizarre.
Yeah.
Because it's just so many episodes. And joining us, as always, that voice you can hear is Rob, who is wearing a Skynet t-shirt, presumably in homage to the Terminator films and also our impending, terrifying hellscape of a future. She's already upon us, Rob.
Oh, yeah, pretty much, Alex. Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to acknowledge that AI will become the future. It is now inevitable, unfortunately. But let's not start the podcast on a dystopian tone.
Rob, on that, it's funny we're talking about this. I have a story, an AI-related story that I really want to read out, but I'm trying to find the right forum for it. We'd say we've got a podcast, that's the forum, but I don't know, we need to devote some time to it. It's quite extraordinary. It's one of the most extraordinary stories I think we'll ever read, and I think I'll probably have to do it on a Patreon, because I think I'll have to all my stories will have to go and it will just be that story, because it's hilarious and terrifying all at once. I think for a future Patreon episode, I will cover this AI story, which has to be one of the most bizarre. You'll know when we get there.
Okay.
And you'll never forget it, Rob.
No, that's what I'm worried about. But so yeah, apart from that, Alex, I'm okay. To answer your question, we are in the process of moving. So the house is just a sea of boxes. So that's always fun. And my birthday's coming up. So it's a real sort of a clusterfuck of events.
Yes, it is. I sympathise, Rob. I moved, as you know, last March, April, and it was hell. But
yeah,
what are you doing in terms of moving stuff? Because that was a big thing that I had. Removal companies. In the end, it ended up hiring this giant these two men with the van. But even then, I had to take so many trips myself in the car because it didn't all fit in.
Yeah, that's so basically I've booked a week off. And what we're planning
right,
to do
that's serious, mate.
Yeah, what we plan to do is one weekend. I think we're going to actually hire a van, which probably Sarah will drive, and then a friend of mine. So they're kind of going to help me move the big stuff ourselves. And then, yeah, we just make periodic trips back and forth, really. I mean, luckily it's only 15 minutes down the road. It's not. I'm not relishing it in the slightest.
But with your previous experience, Rob, of sort of a furniture delivery person, I would have thought that this is kind of related in some way to being a mover, a bit, isn't it? It's kind of similar skill set.
It is, yeah, absolutely, Alex. Yeah, absolutely. I think the difference is, it's other people's stuff, so you don't really care, do you? So, but this time it's my stuff, so there's only me to get pissed off about it. I mean, the other people just make complaints to the company, and that's the end of the story. But it's different, Alex. It's different, entirely from kettle of fish. Right,
let's get on with this, Rob. I've got a couple of stories for you here, both animal related. One, I always say to you, Rob, occasionally I get stories that I know will just be one of my favourites for a long time. My second story will be one of those. This one is a corker as well. From the Metro. Now, I think this might be one that you have as well. I think this could be one where we've coalesced around the same story. Kirsten Robertson from the Metro on Valentine's Day, Tuesday, 14th of February. Not a romantically themed story, I don't think. Man disguises himself as sheep to try and escape prison.
Nope, I haven't heard this one before.
Oh yeah, yeah, okay,
great, okay.
A man has attempted to escape from prison by disguising himself as a sheep. Now, this happened, Rob, in Bolivia, which I now believe is where that teacher in primary school was from. Remember the one I couldn't remember where she was from, and we went through. I think she was Bolivian. Yeah, for anybody who was still wondering about that.
Alex, that's where we started. We started off in Bolivia, and you said, actually, I don't think it is.
Maybe it was Belarus.
Right.
Where's Belarus?
Or Bulgaria. Belarus. Where is
Bulgaria?
Belarus? I think that isn't Belarus sort of Eastern Bloc. Don't know, Alex. Let's not get into this.
I think she was Bolivian. Anyway.
Okay, great.
Jose Luis Calcea Diaz has managed, albeit temporarily, to break out of the prison in Bolivia where he's serving time for homicide, otherwise known, Rob, as Murder 1.
Great.
He donned a sheepskin jacket I'm looking at him now. He donned a sheepskin jacket in an attempt to blend in as he crawled through nearby fields.
Sorry.
So I'm looking at a picture of a man wearing... Yeah.
But when you say a sheepskin jacket to me, doesn't imply that it's covered in sheep's fur. I mean, how on earth did this work?
So he's wearing blue jeans and a white woolly jacket, which does look like a sheep's fleece.
Okay. And
he's sort of lying on his stomach and trying to crawl through the grass and look like a sheep. Right. I wonder if he went, meh. Can you do a sheep, Rob, for us?
Meh. Is that okay? That's more of a goat, actually. Meh. That's more goat. Let's stop this now. Oh. Why do we do it to ourselves?
I think we'd have an even more listened to podcast, Rob, if it was just you doing animal noises.
Maybe.
The inmate had escaped and made it out onto the grassland on February the 4th. But despite the attempt to blend in as a farm animal, Diaz was forced to turn back to his cell after authorities caught him red-handed. I wonder if one of the guards was out in the fields and looking for a sheep to have sex with, Rob, and it all went horribly.
Why did I know he was going to go there at some stage? Quite possibly. I mean, is there also a possibility that he realised that the guy wasn't a sheep and just went ahead with it anyway? Talking
about, Rob, great situations that one could use in a good old sitcom, which, to be honest, what we've just described here is a great foil for some characters to have some laughs around. We haven't actually talked about it. I just want to ask you briefly. Let's just make it brief, to the point. Will the Fawlty Towers reboot, which from my understanding is going to be set in the Caribbean?
Oh,
yeah. Did you not know this? It's going to be set in the Caribbean. So he's going to have a boutique hotel in the Caribbean with his daughter that he didn't know about. Is it going to be a success? And by success, I mean it has to achieve about 80% of what original Fawlty Towers did. And so it's not, is it, Rob? It's just not, as I say it.
No, of course it's not. I think the problem is, Alex, because he is still in it, because John Cleese is has already said that he's willing to take this forward, people will watch it. So in terms of viewing figures, it probably will be deemed a success just because people are curious, if nothing else. I imagine there'll be quite a significant drop-off.
I don't mean that as a success. You know what I mean. So I'm saying about the whole reason he always said he'd never make more Fawlty Towers, because it would be impossible to do.
Yes, I'm aware. I also didn't realise, by the way, that there was actually 5 years between the first and second season.
What, in terms of when they filmed it?
Yeah, in terms of the original, yeah.
Okay, Rob, I did not know that, number one. And number two, I think my anxiety is John Cleese is very old now, very fat, very anti-woke, and all the rest of it, which is fine. But it was the rest of the cast. But anyway, look, okay, well, we've both said we think it's going to fail. Okay, yeah. Right, good. Right. In a bizarre set of photos, Jose Luis can be seen on all fours wearing the jacket and dark trousers while appearing to trail through the grass, impersonating a sheep. Since the prison break, authorities have ordered legal and disciplinary actions against the prisoner. The director of the penitentiary regime, sounds ominous, Juan Carlos Limpia said, prison security police officers from the San Pedro, I'm not going to try and say, prevented the escape of the prisoner who took advantage of the inclement weather to try and escape through one of the walls of the prison external perimeter of the prison. He took advantage of the inclement weather to try to escape through one of the walls of the prison external perimeter of the prison. I mean, that's just gibberish. How do you escape through a wall?
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
It's also known as San Pedro Prison, or El Pinal de San Pedro. It's the largest prison in La Paz, Bolivia. I hope my old teacher didn't end up there. It's renowned for being a society within itself, with inmates able to take jobs and interact with their families. Just the kind of prison system, Rob, we don't want in our country, Rob.
Sounds like a holiday camp, you ask me, Alex.
Yes. Right, sorry, Rob, I'm really sorry to my listeners. I was just distracted by an ad on the Metro.
Quite clearly, Alex, quite clearly, yes.
It's an advert that is made to look like a real news story. And it's got a picture of Matt Hancock in a black roll neck, and it says Matt Hancock leaves girlfriend to cash in on fame. But when you click on it, that's not what's happened at all. And I clicked on it and I fell for it.
Let's be honest, that is more or less what's happened. If you just replace the word girlfriend with wife, that's more or less more or less on the money.
I also, Rob, just a brief mention, because I know it's been doing the rounds, for, I don't know if you saw it a few weeks ago, but I just want to wish Boris Johnson well with his new house purchase.
For £4 million mansion, I think that's the way it was phrased, wasn't it? Yeah.
I think it's got 5 bathrooms and 9 bedrooms. I just wish him well with it, because it's going to, it's a lot to clean. And,
Yeah, and let's face it, he's got an awful lot of skeletons in those cupboards that are going to have to come out over the next couple of years, I imagine, and to try and keep those hidden is going to be a real task.
It's chilling, Rob. Okay, right, listen. The second story, which I promised to read out, which I told you is one of my favourites that I've read in a long time. It's just, what we're like, Rob. We love the details. This is from the Times of London, Sunday Times, February the 15th, 2023. No, it's not from the Sunday Times. Sorry, it's from the Times. How's this for a headline? Millionaire sack nanny after lobster injury row.
Love it. Great headline.
It's by Ali Matib. A millionaire, right, I love this story, Rob. A millionaire's live-in nanny was sacked after asking his boss to pay for surgery when he injured his wrist while preparing a lobster dinner, an employment tribunal has heard.
Sounds absolutely fair to me.
We were just talking about Boris Johnson and his newly acquired mansion. It seems to me the kind of thing that might go on in, around the Johnson household when he moves in.
Alex, how dare you? Not for a second do I think that Boris Johnson will have servants. He does all these things by himself. He doesn't need that doesn't need people to wait on him hand and foot. This man is independent. He's self-sufficient, despite asking for financial handouts.
Brian Hanford, who describes himself as a manny, which is a male nanny, Rob,
right,
tutored Yulia Shkop's 8-year-old son at their £5 million home on the Wentworth estate in Surrey. Hanford said he had a lot of fun in the role, which paid Rob £36,000 a year, and that he enjoyed free tennis lessons and access to the mansion's pool.
That doesn't sound like enough to me, Alex, I'll be honest.
What, for looking after their son? Who I'm sure is delightful.
Sorry, I'm making a lot of assumptions about their son, but yes, that man needs a pay rise.
I feel sorry for children like this, Rob. In February 2021, 5 months after moving in, Hanford was asked to prepare 2 live lobsters after the household chef had finished for the day. Which, again, we're moving into Fawlty Towers territory now, aren't we, Rob? It does. This is where John Cleese should be setting his sitcom, in this bloody house.
That feels like an unreasonable request. If you're there as a nanny, you should not be having to prepare an evening meal, and especially one that's, I would argue, quite a complicated meal to prep.
The typical response, Rob, of the overly entitled and overly entitled pleb. That's what that is.
Right.
You make your live lobsters, Rob, and you do as you're told.
Sure.
You're the serf. Yeah? Do you understand?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've been told that many a time, Alex. Yeah, I understand.
People just shout it on the street to Rob.
Unfortunately, it's true.
So basically, he was told to freeze and cut up the lobsters before boiling them, so the sound of them being cooked would not upset Scop's child. So, listen.
Okay, right.
I want you to cook 2 live lobsters, but we don't want these things screaming while you're boiling them alive. So, do us a favour, and do the lobsters a favour. Freeze them first, and then while they're frozen, cut them up, because that's also a nice way to die, Rob.
Yep.
And prepare them that way. Unsure of how to proceed, Hanford watched a tutorial on YouTube.
Brilliant.
And called the chef for advice. He's like, I've left for the day, mate. Don't bother me. In pressing down hard on a knife while preparing the lobster, he tore his scapholinate ligament, a wrist injury that required an operation followed by 6 weeks of complete immobilization and another 6 weeks of physiotherapy.
I mean, Alex, that sounds genuinely painful.
Yeah.
And also, no one's going to believe you. No one's going to believe you that you did this trying to prepare lobster for an 8-year-old.
Do you think it was a hand shandy gone wrong, Rob? One hand shandy too many?
A really vigorous. Do you think he was also trying to
penetrate the lobster?
Well, I was going to say maybe the lobster was involved in some way, or maybe he was trying to use the lobster claw, some sort of weird fetish, maybe.
Oh, yeah. I thought of that. Watford Employment Tribunal was told that Scop was reluctant to pay for his treatment and their working relationship broke down after the incident. Hanford told the tribunal that he and Scop argued when she refused to take, in quotes, any personal responsibility.
Right.
This was... I don't want to say anything about people with a lot of money and personal responsibility. I don't want to go there.
Fair enough.
And she moved him out of the house and into a staff cottage on the grounds because she was drastically upset by the situation and her son overhearing their rowing. Hanford was told to leave the premises entirely 2 days later, in July 2021. The tribunal heard that when Hanford joined the home, surrounded by sprawling heaths and woodland, there was a strict, in quotes, regime of isolation designed to keep Scop's son safe during the coronavirus pandemic. Hanford was forbidden from leaving the gated community and could not visit a supermarket without having to isolate for 5 days.
What?
This is to protect the child, Rob. To protect the child.
Right.
The tribunal accepted Hanford's version of events and rejected Scop's claim that he hurt his wrist while swimming. So she said he didn't hurt his wrist preparing this lobster that I told him to freeze and cut up. He hurt it swimming because it's a shit reason. Because so it's hard to get any injury while you're swimming because, it's not load bearing.
No, and I'd also say that, it just sounds like something that's completely made up because how would she know that?
Well, yeah. Well,
it's entirely fictitious unless she was watching him swim. Maybe he was being supervised in the pool. We don't know.
However, the claim of unfair dismissal failed because Scop had a loss of faith and trust in Hanford after their disagreement, as she felt he was arguing too much and that he ignored her view and ignored, in her view, the generosity she had always offered. Yeah, be thankful. Be thankful for your use of the pool.
Your free tennis lessons.
The tribunal also dismissed.
And your your £9,000
£36,000. The tribunal also dismissed Hanford's claim for an unlawful deduction of wages. It ruled in favour of his claim that Scop was in breach of the requirement to provide an amended written statement in relation to being unable to work due to sickness, but concluded that Hanford was not in line for any compensation. So this tribunal, Rob, I think, found rightly and found in favour of the clearly more injured party here, I believe, Rob. Do you agree?
No, I don't actually. I'm concerned for this poor destitute family who now have to prepare their lobsters by themselves, or until their cook arrives the following day.
Yeah. Simon Bromwich says torn ligament. Thankfully, no muscle damage, but muscle is written as in, the clam muscle. See,
I see.
So there's a lot of.
That's quite clever.
Unfortunately, the Times comment section is filled with a lot of fish puns, which aren't really going to work too well because we can't read them. But
yeah.
Derek Shaw says, "Sorry, this is a story for the tabloids, not the Times. Surely there are more important stories to print." And Graham Gibson simply says, "Not if you're a lobster," and I'd agree with him. I for one am very happy that the Times printed this story. James Peters says, "I've just checked and none of my cleaning staff can prepare lobster or oysters or even know what quinoa is. Before you launch a Just Giving page for me, luckily one of my many kitchen staff will always be available."
Brilliant.
Okay, Rob, some stories.
The first one, Alex, look, we know this went viral, but I think we'd be doing our listeners a disservice by not at least mentioning it very briefly.
So you're saying, should I know this story already?
You will know this story without a doubt, yeah. I think we may have discussed it, actually. Yeah, you will. So this is from the Metro. It is from the 30th of January by Alicia Adedoji. And the headline is... Mr Blobby costume buyer backs out of £62,000 sale an hour after winning auction bid.
I felt 62,000 seems reasonable to me. I didn't feel like it was over the top for what should be. Isn't it an iconic? Is it ever going to have any value? I mean, Mr Blobby wasn't big outside the UK, was he? I don't think.
But Alex, just imagine look. Let's view it from the buyer's side. You know, you've obviously got caught up in the frenzy of this auction bid. You've won the auction, and then you realise you spent £62,000 on a Mr Blobby costume. And that's when I imagine the panic descended.
Yeah, but you would think that somebody bidding that amount in the first place probably got a lot of cash. I mean, if you got 62 grand of drop or something like that, probably money is no object, I would have thought. I hope it wasn't somebody who literally just spent their life savings, instead of the deposit for the house. Yeah, I'll buy a Mr Blobby costume.
This is what I'm hoping it is. It's a man who's going through a divorce. He's got 3 children, and he'd been drinking heavily over the course of that evening, and then suddenly realised that literally he bet the house on a Mr Blobby costume.
Was he the only bidder?
No. There was a bidding war. That's what I mean, Alex. This item was originally listed for £39, which, by the way, is a fucking bargain.
Do you think Noel Edmonds listed it? It seems.
No, I don't. Well, it's a good question. Apparently, it was a member of the production team.
Are they allowed to do that? I mean, isn't it intellectual property? Doesn't it belong to somebody? You can't just take it home. I'm taking home Mr Blobby's costume.
Who knows, Alex?
Who was Mr Blobby anyway? Do we know who the man in the suit was?
I don't think it was one man. I think it was a few.
I kind of feel like it was probably, what's his name, Tony Blackburn. He was always showing up on that show and being humiliated, wasn't he? He'd pop in, wouldn't he?
I imagine. I don't know why. I mean, it could well have been Tony Blackburn. Absolutely. I mean, we know that he is quite a tragic figure, although apparently a very, very lovely man. Is it possibly Keith Chegwin?
Sorry?
Is it possibly?
Yeah.
Seems like kind of thing.
Yeah, it could have been. I was actually just checking if Jimmy Savile ever appeared on Noel's house party. Apparently, he did. Yes, I'm looking at the clip now. I've got Noel Edmonds. I've got Peter Stringfellow. Whatever happened to him, Rob? Did he die?
No, he's still alive, and I think he still has some a club or two in London.
So I'm looking at Peter Stringfellow now on Noel's house party. Oh yeah, here's Jimmy Savile. Jimmy Savile is palling around with Peter Stringfellow,
right,
and Noel Edmonds, and Jimmy Savile is about to be gunged.
Right.
Yeah, he's going. Yeah.
I mean, Alex, let's just take a moment to. I mean, that's gonna be an interesting night, isn't it? Noel Edmonds, Jimmy Savile, and Peter Stringfellow. I can imagine you're going to remember that night.
Yeah. It feels like there's a good opening to a joke there. Peter Stringfellow, Jimmy Savile, and Noel Edmonds walk into a pub.
Everyone else leaves. Because they don't need that evening.
No, you don't need to add anything to that, Rob. You just told the perfect joke. We've just created a joke.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a joke you can never tell. Jimmy Savile, Peter Stringfellow, and Noel Evans walk into a pub. Everyone else leaves.
Yeah, that is. End the podcast there, mate. End on a high. Anyway, you probably want to finish your story.
Yeah. So an eBay auction went viral earlier this month when it emerged that a former BBC employee was selling the iconic costume originally worn on Noel Edmonds' Saturday night variety show, Noel Edmonds' House Party, or Noel's House Party on BBC One. The seller, who remained anonymous, simply wanted to create space in their wardrobe and put the costume up for auction for a very affordable price of £39. However, it gained tractions and the bids came flying in, with the eventual winner placing 10 bids. So the person who did buy it must have really wanted this fucking costume.
Yeah, plenty of time to think about it, Rob.
Yeah. So the auction ended and the buyer was expected to pay an eye-watering £62,000 for the costume. Sadly, it seems they got cold feet and eventually pulled out of the agreement to buy it. According to the BBC, the buyer changed their mind just an hour after the bids closed. Speaking to the outlet, the anonymous seller said, ironically, it was not being sold to make money, but to make space. I don't think you can lose something you've never had. Which they added around about the £62,000 loss. Despite the disappointing outcome, the sellers chose not to put the costume back up for auction, but many other Blobby costumes have gone on sale since the viral bid, with one even listed for £15,000.
So hang on a minute. Sorry. So there isn't just one.
No, there's one. I think there's a few. Yeah.
I feel like this would have been a great thing, a great partridge. escapade that Steve Coogan should have bought that off eBay. I'd love the idea of Alan Partridge buying this Mr Blobby costume and staging some sort of stalking revenge campaign against Edmonds.
That's
dressed
brilliant.
as Mr Blobby.
Absolutely.
I mean, there are
brilliant.
lots of things you could do with Partridge that they're just not doing. But anyway,
yeah.
Have you actually watched? Have you watched Stratagem? It's on Amazon Prime. It's pretty disappointing. I mean,
yeah, I saw it's on there. I mean, it's no, I haven't watched it. Is it? Have you seen it? What do you think?
It's sort of all right. It's all right in parts, but it's just I just feel like basically to me a Partridge without Mid-Morning Matters excluded. Because I do think those 2 seasons are brilliant. Without Iannucci, but then again, he was involved in Mid-Morning Matters, is my understanding. I think the moment, if you look at it, he was. If you look at the credits.
Oh, really?
He
I
had
thought
input.
it was just the
No, he had creative input into it, and I think that tells. But without him, I don't know, it loses something. And also, Peter Bainham was so. Anyway, sorry, we're going.
Yeah.
Play right now. Rob, have you got? So is that? What were we just talking about, Mr. Blobby? Okay. Do you have another story for us?
Yes, just very, very quickly. I like this story. So this is from the BBC's website. That's the BBC. They never put journalists on here. It's from the 31st of January anyway. Headline, cat stuck up tree for 4 days, evades rescue.
That's a cat that doesn't want to come home, and you wonder why, Rob.
Yeah, just leave the cat alone. Yeah, it's happy there. You know, just it started a new life for itself. What can you say?
Yeah.
So a cat stuck up a tree in West Yorkshire has managed to evade rescue by firefighters for 4 days. The cat remains in a tree behind the Longley Community Sports Club near Huddersfield. Crews from the West Yorkshire Fire Service spent 2 hours trying to save the animal on Monday by using a drone, a 34 feet ladder, and a rope.
Right, well, that's sinister. I think eventually, you just shoot it. I mean,
right,
can't stay up the tree. We've tried every attempt to get you there. And is that really what our resources are going on? I'm just thinking, don't they have fires? Why are firemen? What shouldn't there be some other, not emergency service, but other service set up to deal with this kind of shit? It's just how can it be a fireman's job to be rescuing? I thought. It's so cliched, I didn't actually realise that they did this anymore.
Could you not chuck a couple of quid towards the RSPCA and get them to do it?
Well, that's what I mean. Isn't this a bit like asking a paramedic to come and fix your drainage system under your sink? What the fuck does that have to do? Basically, the only reason firemen are asked to do this is because they have a ladder. Well,
in this case, also a drone and a rope. But I think is it? I think it's just because they have the specialist tools. I think you're right. I think that's the only reason they're doing it. Also, I want to make it absolutely clear that at no stage was there any indication that the fire brigade shot the cat. And also, I don't think they legally have that right.
That's a shame.
Yeah, no, I know. So firefighters were called in. Oh, sorry. Apparently,
they did shoot the cat.
No, hang on. Firefighters were called in around 11:45 GMT because the RSPCA were extremely busy and could not send an officer to help. A fire service spokesman said. So there you know, Alex. The RSPCA turned it down.
Is that a surprise? Because they've got about, I think it's 3 members of staff. The RSPCA. So
Alex has been cut back, so down to 2 now. I'm sorry to say.
Oh right. Okay.
So station manager Damien Cameron said, I'm afraid we weren't able to get the cat down. We tried coasting it down where we could get reasonable access, tried using food, but it was too high up, and it began to climb further up when we made any attempts to get closer. A drone was used to see if the noise would persuade it down. With no success. The female cat's owner said firefighters did everything they could to help, but they would monitor the situation throughout the day.
If they'd left it up the tree, wouldn't the cat eventually have just found its way down?
Probably, yeah. I mean, Alex is look.
So what was the point of this?
Well, I mean, if I was, I'm just trying to think. As a cat owner, would I call the fire brigade if my cat was up a tree? No, I think I would just.
Yeah, you would. Yeah.
I don't know if I would.
No, if it was there for days, Rob, what would you do?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, give it a day.
I think after 2 days, I put it down to a loss and move on.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, you're right, Alex. Yeah, get the crossbow out and job done.
Well, I'd assume it wanted to live its life as a bird, which is its right to do.
Absolutely, Alex, and we have to respect that.
Okay, Rob, it's time for our listener story of the week.
So this week it is from Kyber, and it's from a paper that I don't think we featured before. Actually, it's not one that I recognise. So Kyber again hitting it out of the park. So this is from the Lancaster Guardian.
I'm pretty sure we have. I don't know.
That doesn't ring a bell to me.
Okay, yeah. You've got a pretty good nose for this.
So the story is by Michelle Blade from the 9th of December, and the headline is, once I turn off my ad blocker, there we go. Morecambe Park volunteer says he has proof there are aliens on the moon.
This is proof I was about to say a very grainy image of the moon, but I understand that people online have been posting that this new Samsung phone with whatever it is, 1,000 times zoom, can take some pretty close-up pictures of the moon. Quite incredible.
Yeah, because I know that. I mean, it includes. So my Samsung, which is an S22, there's a new RAW app which allows you to take it's supposed to take like night pictures, sort of the cosmos. I haven't tried it out myself, but it's supposed to be quite incredible. Anyway, look.
But there was, hang on a minute, there was an Android phone though, I can't remember which one it was, which when you zoomed so far, like if you pointed your camera at the moon and you zoomed into the moon enough, AI would take over and replace what we're looking at with a stock image of a zoomed in photo of a moon, but without telling you that's what it had done. So here you were thinking you were taking these incredible shots, which is just brilliant. I love it.
Is that true?
Yes, look it up.
Oh, blimey, okay. Anyway, right. So Simon Lewis from Morecambe told the Daily Star he has evidence of life out in space after being given photos that he claims show UFOs and extraterrestrial structures.
Sorry, Rob, wait a second.
Yeah.
Why have you waited? I know we do the listener story at the end, but this is earth-shattering news. This has just changed the whole direction of humanity, what you're telling me.
I know,
you've
Alex.
just rung me. I mean, where was the phone call? Where was the text? This is front page news on all the papers, is it?
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, I mean, he's having a bit of difficulty. Some of the national papers to pick up on this, although it was in the Daily Star, so he's off to a good start. But look, Alex, this is where it gets interesting. They were taken by astronauts during the Apollo space program, and he is now revealing them for the first time. So this man from Morecambe is revealing these pictures. So one photo taken during the Apollo 16 mission in 1972 appears to show a mile-long, cigar-shaped object thought to be a base hidden inside a crater. Fascinating, right. Alex. Absolutely fascinating.
Are these smudges on the...
No, these are authentic pictures.
They're just shadows, aren't they, Rob? They're all shadows.
We don't know that. So the Apollo 15 trip a year earlier captured a possible flying saucer. Another snap shows a shiny UFO in a close encounter with the Apollo 11 lunar lander in 1969 when Neil Armstrong first stepped on the moon. So now, Alex, I know this seems too good to be true, but it's all genuine. I can assure you of that, because author Simon, who obviously who the story's about, believes NASA is hiding the truth about UFOs and alien life. He said, "I've been doing this for 30 years. I've received so much information. I've got around 8,000 images, all looking normal until you start looking closely and you realise some are odd. The photos have never been made public before." Now, Alex, you may be asking why a man who lives in Morecambe has access to an astronaut from NASA. Well, now I can tell you why.
Love affair?
So his... No, not that we know of anyway. So his interest in the moon was sparked by a chance meeting with a former NASA employee in 1994 who told him the US and Russia have a secret base there. The ex-operative, who now lives in England and works as a doctor, said the US had a space program running alongside the public one.
So hang on, he's maintaining that he ran into some ex-astronaut, is that right? From NASA?
Yes, that's right, yeah.
An astronaut?
Yes.
Who now is living sort of undercover as a doctor somewhere, like in Surrey or wherever.
Correct.
Who said to him, just as they were, I don't know, talking over some vol-au-vents, that did you know that there's a secret alien base on the moon? and I used to work for NASA.
Yes, correct.
But I could say that I could tell people I used to work for NASA and did you know this or did you know that? So either the person he met was masquerading as an ex-NASA employee, or he didn't meet anybody, or this is all in fact the truth, which of course it could be. I don't dispute that.
This individual, whoever he is, has handed Simon official documents for the Apollo missions and says he has designs for a highly secretive advanced spacecraft which took astronauts to the moon on secret missions. So I don't appreciate disparaging the source. Simon does go on to say, people can easily say that my source was a made-up character, but he gave me everything he collected when he worked at NASA. So I have no reason to doubt him, Alex. And I'm sorry to say, listeners, that it seems that alien life is out there. In case you're wondering, Simon is the director of a landscape gardening business, but has already written 2 books around his astonishing findings. Just to put that out there.
Rob, we've got a book by John Mooner. We say we want to. We've got to start. We could actually set up a podcast. In fact, maybe that's what we should do. We set up a podcast to deal with these books, because we've also got E.T. Rider, which I really want to read.
Yes,
remember that one? We could
Absolutely.
start doing a podcast, Rob, like a once a month thing, where we review these amateur books about the paranormal and the supernatural that people write, because there are a lot of them out there. They self-publicise them. It could be about ghost sex, for example.
Yeah,
that's not a bad idea.
No, Alex. I think that's definitely worth one thinking about. But but if anyone, it doesn't say what his book is. But if you want to go and find, him, his name is what's his name again? Simon Lewis from Morecambe.
Also available for all your landscape gardening needs.
Correct.
Well, Rob, that brings this episode of LA Podcast, episode 382, I believe, to a close. Now, look, if you like this, if you want more content, go to Patreon, patreon.com/LA Podcast Extra. That's patreon.com/LA Podcast Extra. And please, we need your support. Basically, you're going to Patreon to sign up to become a supporter of this podcast. That's why they're called Patreons. Basically, we want you to be a member of this podcast, a supporter of this podcast. And it costs a minimum of £1 a month. You can pay that, or you can pay more if you want. And for that, you get 2 episodes of a whole other podcast, LA Podcast and Extra Jab, delivered to your email inbox every month, and they can only be found on Patreon. And there are over 40 episodes now on Patreon, Rob. I believe there are.
There are.
Which is quite incredible. So you get access to all of those as well, and all our Daft Talk episodes that we did a while back, for any of you who aren't aware of that podcast. Yeah, so go on there. I mean, you're getting so much content for £1 a month, and it would also help keep this podcast afloat. We're going to be back in a week's time with the next episode for the Patreon, and a week after that it will be episode 383. Thank you for listening, everybody. God bless.
And keep it local.